Hi, I'm Joseph Huberman, VP for Club Services, and I'd like to welcome you to the third OUSA Monthly Forum. Phil Wadsworth will discuss the Pan Am Games and how they will be hosting the orienteering sport. We'll have questions and discussion after the presentation, so please raise your hand if you want to speak and keep your microphone off until you're called on. This program is being recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your camera and mic or leave the meeting. Phil, I now turn this over to you.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to the group. So my name is Phillip Wadsworth. I'm a member of the Northeastern Ohio Orienteering Club, so Cleveland, Ohio, and we're fortunate that we're going to be helping with the Pan American Masters Games this year in July, and we're looking forward to having foot orienteering as one of the sports. So the presentation is a little bit about how we got involved in this and some lessons learned. So the next slide, please. So what are the Pan American Games? So we're all aware of the Olympics. The Olympic organization is much bigger than just what we'll see in Paris this year. It starts out at 13, 14, 15-year-olds do a international children's games where cities send teams, and Cleveland's been very active in that, and they've hosted the summer international children's games. It goes up to Junior Olympics, and then above that there is the World Masters Games, which is all run through the same Olympic organization. In addition to the World Masters Games, Portland hosted the World Masters Games in '98. There are regional events, the Pan American Games, European Masters Games, Asian Masters Games, and Cleveland won the bid to host the Pan American Masters Games this year, starting July 12th, running through to the 21st, here in Cleveland and near around Cleveland. So it's a big event, 10,000 plus athletes. We're looking at 26 different sports, of which orienteering is one. You're going to recognize a bunch of the sports, swimming, athletics, those kind of things. There is mountain biking, time trialing on cycles, triathlon, and because Cleveland's got a pretty active curling club and league, there is actually, you can come and do a winter sport curling in Cleveland in July. So one of the 26 sports is foot orienteering. And my club, our club, has agreed to be sort of the technical resources for the Cleveland Sports Commission as they host the Pan American Masters Games. And we're going to be offering sprint, middle, and long distance events at 3 different venues. For us orienteers that are cheap, it seems like a pretty pricey. It's $225 to come and register for this event, but it does allow you to enter more than just orienteering. In my registration, I've registered for some mountain biking, a 10K road race, a triathlon. I'm not sure I'm going to do all of those things, but the registration does allow you to register for at least 3 sports, and within those sports, a number of the different disciplines. So come to Cleveland and enjoy, and try some different sports. There is different registration dates for different sports. Orienteering's registration closes July 1st of this year. We're hoping to get 200 athletes, so please come and register. Next slide, please. So that's a little bit about the actual Masters Games, where they fit in the world organization. But then you come to little old Cleveland, where I live, and I see some of my club members are on the call. So, our club was formed in '76. We're about 100 members this year. We're pretty active. Something going on most months. Just January 6th, just this last Saturday, we had a snow. There was some snow on the ground, but it wasn't cross-country skiing. I've actually done some cross-country ski orienteering through the New York Empire Orienteering Club, and love that stuff. But so we ran in the snow. We had 50 entries, 90 participants, and offered 5 courses. So we're pretty active all the way through the year. We do try and offer a variety of different events. We have a pretty annual canoe. We do some night score events, and we do a city quest. And we have, for a number of years, hosted the Python Adventure Race, a 10-hour row game in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Unfortunately, this year, we've taken on the challenge of hosting the Pan American Masters Games here in Cleveland, and so we're not going to be offering the Python this year. We get around in the area, so we've 11 different venues, and for the Pan American Games, we are using venues that we've used for a number of years. So the maps are well established. We've got some pretty good relationships with the host the host venues, and we're going to be working through those. Next slide, please, Joyce. So what's it going to look like for the Pan American Masters Games for foot orienteering? So we're early in the event. The whole sort of games last about a couple of weeks. We're on the first Saturday. We have a rest day / rain day on Sunday, just in case we get bad weather on the 13th. And then we're on Monday, Tuesday of the first week with a possible rain day on Wednesday. It's for 35 years and over, and they go up in every 5-year age groups. And we're hoping to reach our maximum of 200 athletes at the event. You can see up on the slide that we've got a sprint, long distance, middle distance. The Sports Commission was particularly interested in us because we're the only venue that is we're the only venue they're using that is actually in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and they really want to highlight this resource in Northeast Ohio. And we will be applying to run this as a NRE event for only 35s and overs. We did have a bit of a discussion, a bit of review about whether we can do it as a world ranking event. And Mike Minion, our technical delegate, who's on the call, really sort of helped guide me to realize that the world ranking is really for the very elite athletes, and they're typically 21 up to 35. So, and because when we are not going to be offering any courses for under 35-year-olds, an NRE is the right kind of event. So in the next couple of weeks, I've got to start putting the process together to make that application to the board. As we've mentioned earlier, athletes that come can register for multiple different sports, and the whole event lasts 2 weeks. So how did our little club get involved in this big event, 10,000 athlete event? Orienteering has been in the Masters Games for a long time. Auckland, for example, that did the World Masters Games in 2017, I think also hosted at that time the World Masters Orienteering Championship, because they actually had 1,600 athletes in the orienteering part of the Masters Games. And this included 150 plus athletes that were in the 70 to 75 age group. What we've found is there is no real knowledge at the Sports Commission about our sport orienteering. I run with a group on Sunday mornings sometimes, and I was running next to the Sports Commission executive director, and he was asking me what orienteering was, because I kept calling into the group and saying, I'm not going to run this weekend because I'm doing orienteering. And he had just won this bid, his organization just won the bid to host the Pan American Games. And orienteering is one of the sports that they wanted, the International Masters organization wanted Cleveland to host. So he was quizzing me about what that was. We ended up in a bunch of discussions, and I made a proposal to our club, and we agreed to support the Sports Commission and take on this challenge of hosting the Pan American Games foot orienteering. So our club is pretty small. We haven't done a large NRE type of event for many years. I think it goes back about 20 years before we had. So we had a lot of learning with a lot of new people. We do have some athletes that attend NREs, and they've been involved in designing all the courses and sort of providing guidance to us. But we don't have deep club knowledge in an event quite like this. We have hosted large events. Our Python often runs with about 100 participants, but we've never put on 3 events in 4 days. So what's the split between the Cleveland Sports Commission and our club? Who does what? The Sports Commission is really good. They're taking on the insurance, doing some of the vouchers. They've got the registration for both the athletes and the volunteers. Volunteers can sign up free of charge, and they get swag and entrance into a lot of the fun events. There's a event at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a event with the Cleveland Guardians, the baseball team. So there's a parade at the start. There's a celebration at the end, and these all come available for both the athletes and the volunteers. As a club, we're obviously involved in the technical side of this. So we've got some draft course designs. We're doing hopefully we're going to be doing a site visit with sports commissions this week, next week, to look at some of the logistics. And we're providing the orienteering specific volunteers. Through OUSA, John in particular, he put me in contact with Mike Minion. Mike is one of only 3 people in the US that's a IOF advisor, and the International Masters Games organization for each of the 26 sports wants a technical delegate identified to make sure that our little small club is putting on the event to a standard that international people traveling internationally would expect. And Mike's been a great help. We hold monthly meetings just on the Pan American Games, and Mike's been attending them, providing us guidance. And then as a club, we're obviously providing a lot of the orienteering specific equipment. One of the things that the Sports Commission was surprised was that we didn't need to, in our budget, we didn't need to include a timer. A lot of the running events obviously use external third-party organizations that do all the timing. And through Mike Avery, a member of our club, and team he's got, we're comfortable doing all that. So that's saved on the budget side. That it's not an additional expense. So so you see a split there. What kind of lessons have we learned? It is incredibly hard to try and gauge how many athletes are going to be attending. Currently we've got a cap of 200 athletes for orienteering. We'd love to get more than that. Register early, because if we get some more, we'll go back to the venues and request additional space and allow additional athletes to come in. Another thing is, and I apologize about the spelling error in here, is when we started this last year, we were talking about all kinds of different opportunities. Hosting a social event that might be a night orienteering event to bring different people together from different areas to run in teams. But in the end, we've really tried to sort of settle in on looking for venues that we've had experience with, that we've got well-established maps. One of the things the Sports Commission wanted us to do is look and see whether we could host an event in our pretty comprehensive Cleveland metro parks. We as a club have used the metro parks in the past, been in the metro parks. As the metro parks got more use, they've really significantly cut back on the opportunities to run off trail in the metro parks. And so we had a discussion, and the metro parks, through their relationship with the Cleveland Sports Commission, agreed that we could have an orienteering event in one of the parks, but that would be the only event we could do. We as a club had proposed to them that we'd develop a map, but we wanted use for this for a couple of events a year for the next 2 years. If we're going to invest the time, we all know on this call how much time is invested in generating maps. If we're going to generate a new map, we want to be able to use that map. So in the end, we didn't go forward with the Cleveland Metro Parks. There are other sporting events in the Pan American Masters Games that use the Metro Parks. So it wasn't as important to the Cleveland Sports Commission that we as orienteering, photo orienteering, were in there. They are very grateful that we can actually highlight the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We talked about punch sticks and contactless controls. For all our events, we use punch sticks. So we opted not to try and challenge or expand or bring in new technology right before a big event like this. So we're sticking with punch sticks. It's going to be the same for everybody. The sticks will work, in this mode, even if you're used to using contactless controls. So that's an area where we sort of just decided that we've lots of experience and we're real comfortable using this. We realized that an event this size, we need to practice. So just at the January 6th event, just this last weekend, we started practicing start sequences and learned a bunch of lessons there. It's going to be different at the Pan American Games because we're not going to have a lot of beginner courses. And we're going to have people that are more used to using the start sequence. But as a club and volunteers, we have to we want to get trained. And so we've got a number of additional events coming up. We're going to, again, practice. As a club, on the permits contacts, we've got contacts at the Cuyahoga Valley. We've been in there many years, 15 years plus. So we've got contacts there. But now when we brought the Cleveland Sports Commission in and ourselves, where is the insurance being held? Who's holding the insurance? This kind of stuff. So our final permit approval in the Cuyahoga Valley, for example, is just waiting for the Sports Commission to finalize their is to send in the insurance that they've got to cover the event. Not going to be a problem. I'm 100% sure it's not going to be a problem. But it's just this sort of added complexity of who's doing what within the Sports Commission and us. A fairly significant lesson learned is when you get involved with some of these bigger events, the lack of orienteering knowledge at the Sports Commission is, just how do the games run? What are we trying to do? How do we organize the event? How do you get different starts at different times? Why do you have so many different maps? These kind of things. It's been an education from our club's perspective in trying to bring the paid staff at the Cleveland Sports Commission up to speed on our sport. And then one of the things we're also trying to work out is how to attract other athletes. 10,000 athletes come in. This assumes there's 9,000 plus athletes that didn't sign up for orienteering. How do we get some of those to come and try our sport? Which is the best course for them to try? Is it the sprint, middle, long distance? How do we want to organize that at the club level? So that's one of the areas that we're still trying to work through. We have currently tasked this Cleveland Sports Commission to look at previous Masters games hosted by either the World Games or the regional games, European Games, Pan American Games, to find out how many athletes registered for orienteering and then also registered for multiple different sports, and how do we expand that? So a lot of lessons learned, and that's a 20-minute presentation, and I'd be grateful if you've got any questions to just raise your hand, and I'll do my best to punt, run away, or just tell you I'll get back to you. Thank you, Joseph.
Well, we're open for questions. Anyone raise your hand if you're interested? Go ahead, John.
I haven't asked you this before. What's the expected mix of people in private cars versus the Sports Commission organizing buses or something of the sort?
I think for this event, we did spend time early on with the Sports Commission because we use Kent State University, have used it for a number of years for our sprint type of events, and that's a bit far away. For this sport, it's all going to be private cars. I'm not sure they're organizing many buses in the meetings I've been in to move athletes around. Thanks, John.
Actually, completely unrelated question. Is the Sports Commission helping foreign entrants out with like getting a letter to include with their visa application?
Very much so, yes. They've got a couple of people that are dedicated to doing that. Their goal is 20% of the athletes to be from overseas, and yeah, they're very active to help international athletes get through the visa requirements that individual athletes might have.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just recently had one of our Orienteering Cincinnati members ask me, said they are very interested in another sport, particularly curling. They're certainly going to be there to help with orienteering, but they wanted to volunteer to help with the curling, and they were wondering how they went about signing up for that. I haven't looked. Is there a general volunteer sign up thing on the Pan Am Masters Games website, or do they need to contact the sports organization specifically?
Great question, Mike. So currently the athlete registration is open. They have about, it's hard to say. They told me they've got about 400 people registered. They had 2,000 people working on registration, then their system went down, and they spent the last couple of weeks contacting each of those individually to get them back into registration. Right? So that's the athlete registration side.
Okay.
On the volunteer registration side, we as a club have provided a list of volunteers that we need, list of jobs for each of the sites, for each of the events. And they've put together a volunteer registration site, which is free for people to come and volunteer. They are expecting to open that up sometime the end of January for volunteers. So we as a club, for example, have got a lot of volunteers that want to do some of the orienteering specific tasks. So when people get on and they want to volunteer for curling, for example, that I am assuming that there will be an opportunity for people to select the sports they want to volunteer at. But it is separate registrations. It's registration for the athlete, separate registration for volunteering.
It does sound like, compared to the World Masters Games that some people may have helped with a year ago, that the process of getting involved either as a volunteer is a lot less intense than what it was for the World Masters Games. There was for that a background check, some credentialing. Homeland Security had it at their top level of risk assessment. It sounds like this Pan Am Games currently is not going to have quite so many hoops to jump through for volunteering and for being involved and for spectating. That may change, but at this point, it seems much simpler. I posted a link to the general Pan Am Masters Games website in the chat. So
Thanks,
if anyone wants to look for more information, you can click that and browse. As Phillip said, they don't have their volunteer registration open yet, but there are certainly other things, and athlete registration in sports that you can take a look at.
Yeah, the communication I got from the Sports Commission between Christmas and New Year was that they'll, get ready. The volunteer registration is due to open up sometime in near the end of January.
Do you need any more help in the orienteering technical end?
We would be grateful of all the help we can get. Because it's three separate events on obviously three days, three separate days. We recognize, of which two of them are Monday and Tuesday. We recognize that that's quite a lift for our club of 100 people. So we would be grateful for any help, and people can contact me directly if they want, and I'm happy to guide them through that.
John, go ahead.
So if we wanted to volunteer for control pickup, if we're going to be there participating, would we contact someone in the club or go through the Sports Commission website?
So So one of the lessons we're learning through the Sports Commission is, in order to keep everyone covered by the insurance, they want to run everything through the Sports Commission. So one of the tasks, so I listed out a whole series of tasks for each event, of which control pickup is one of them. Having not seen yet what the Sports Commission are putting out for orienteering specific volunteer opportunities, I'm assuming they've taken my list. It's going to be all up there, and then people could volunteer through that registration on for control pickup. But I have to say I've not seen that part of it yet. We've not we had a beta test on the registration. We've not yet had a beta test on the volunteers registration.
Matt.
This isn't my question, but when Joseph said technical assistance or volunteers, I heard live blocks come out in his voice. I don't know if that's what he meant or not. Are you planning to do stuff like that, live blocks or Route Gadget or anything like that?
Yeah, this is Mike Avery. Yes, we definitely are planning to run live locks at the event.
Mike is a member of the club, and he's our live locks expert. And
Cool.
As we've had club meetings, Mike's been nudging and promoting this. So go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say it's definitely planned. We've got full support of the live locks team to be able to offer it. Of course, now with the OUSA National Federation license, that's not a concern anymore.
Mike Minium, is the IOF rules, are they going to permit people carrying phones?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting relationship with IOF, that we're not really a IOF event like World Championships or JWalk. IOF, we don't even have a formal event advisor as such. I'm been appointed as kind of a liaison to see that we do courses and so forth in compliance with IOF, but it's not an actual IOF event like JWalk or World Champs. So I think we're free to set our own and say, yes, people can take GPS devices as long as they're not using them to navigate. They have to not look at them, as many of the national federations allow, that you can use that for post-event evaluation purposes, but not for communication or assistance during the event.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that as a user of LiveLocks, this last Saturday, I got, for the very first time in a long time, I got truly lost. And it wasn't until I looked at LiveLocks that I realized I was off the map. The reason I couldn't recognize anything on the map was I bottom right-hand corner of the map, and I went off east, and I should have gone off west, and I was in the middle of Nowhereville. So yeah, the post-event review was very useful for me. It didn't make me any less embarrassed, but it was very useful.
We do have to be careful of people using cell phones to take a picture of the map and communicating it to club mates, that kind of thing. But as far as using a GPS on the course, and as far as displaying live locks to spectators once the last starter is out, I don't think any of that will be a problem.
Mike Avery.
Yeah, on the technical side, we've been using NEOOC for our local events and the Python for the last couple of years and been very successful at it. But I would appreciate it if anyone can point me to someone at a U.S. club that's used NEOOC in an NRE level event. I'd like to just kind of pick their brains to make sure we're ready for this.
Matt.
Yeah, you also mentioned trying to get more people to try out orienteering, sign up for multiple events, but I would assume you're not going to offer any course lower than Brown, right?
Correct. We this is that rein-in. We have talked about doing offering a sort of a beginner introductory course. Someone mentioned the term a pink course, but I think at this point we're just going to offer the courses, and then the idea is which is the best opportunity to invite people to come to try and encourage people, you know. And current thinking as of this week is, you know, the sprint event might be the best, but that is also the furthest one away from Cleveland at Kent State, so it's a bit of a drive, you know. So we're still trying to work that through. I think when I hear back from the Sports Commission about how many athletes who've signed up for orienteering at other Masters events did other sports, that might give us some indication about how much effort to put into this. Because if it's only been a few, we might be focusing just on the orienteers.
Well, the other question is, I don't know that you could compare the numbers of people with other sports that join orienteering for events that are in Europe versus events that are outside of Europe.
Yep. This goes back to that very first thing with, you know, trying to work out how many athletes we're going to get is the big question right now. And I don't have a good, you know, gauge to know what that would be. I know what kind of, you know, Mike Minion's Flying Pig, how many people come to that kind of event, you know, which is in the Midwest close by. So, you know, I attended the Rochester Buffalo Masters, the US Masters, and got an idea of how many Masters 35 and over at that event. You know, but how many people will come to this kind of event is, again, not quite sure.
Stephanie.
So when you said that you're going to have finger stick punching, you mean not even SI air using finger sticks? So you weren't just referring to other types of SI air, but you're saying it'll be a manual punch with the finger stick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike, tell me if I'm saying the wrong thing.
I
I was thinking about Mike Avery, the guy who looked after our club. Sorry, Mike Minion.
No, that's fine. You got it right. We're talking finger stick.
Yeah. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
I thought we were going to offer the air punching, but if not, if it's just manual with the air, with non-air cards.
Yeah, that's what I assumed you meant, but I just wanted to double check because sometimes people would call it a finger stick,
Line. Yeah.
but still using SI air, you know, as opposed to some of those other air capable types of devices. I just wonder if you have any concerns about that potentially limiting attendance, that people might be put off, that people might be put off by not having SI air.
The discussions we've had, and then I'll look for Mike Avery also to jump in. The discussion we've had is we think people might be a little bit disappointed but it shouldn't stop them from coming. The other information we've got is that, you know, the air punch works in a regular, like we as a club normally use it. So it's not as if they have to find additional equipment to bring. Thirdly, our club's got a bunch of SI punches that we were prepared to loan out to people who come if they really don't have anything. Part of the registration does ask them to tell us their number, their SI punch number, and through that we should be able to identify what kind of punch they've got. Mike Avery?
No, I don't have anything to add. You've pretty well covered it.
Yeah, I'll just say that, you know, I certainly don't, it doesn't deter me from coming to an event that there's not SI air, but I just wonder if people will make assumptions about, you know, beyond the, right? Like there are certain, I just wonder if people will make assumptions about sort of the quality of the event otherwise if you don't offer SI air. That's as
Interesting
politically
perspective, yeah.
correct as I can put it. That's as nice as I can put it, I think. And you know, that, which is to say that I think the assumptions they might make otherwise about the quality are probably unfounded, but I think people do probably make certain associations with, you know, in terms of quality of event and sophistication of the event with whether you have SI air or not. So just something to think about.
Michael Avery, did you want to respond to that directly?
Yeah, I guess I just was going to ask the question to the group. Is it recommended that we put that out right up front in our information that's presented to potential registrants, that this is going to be standard non-contactless or standard contact stick punching? And then I guess the second question, if it is put out right up front, what impact would it have on the level of participation if they know that we're not going to have it?
Walter, you want to comment?
Well, I think especially for the sprint, air is definitely an advantage. And I could see that international competitors, if they see that for the sprint there is no air, I think they could be put off on that. And we have some sprint specialists even here in the US. I think they will be disappointed if there is no air.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm not talking about air. I have a question on something else.
Well, I was just going to say one other thing. I believe any of the SI boxes can be configured to accept air.
Yes.
So, you know, you might want to just configure the boxes so they accept air and let people accept air and just leave it at that.
I think one of the concerns that has been raised is lack of experience with it and knowing that it puts a higher demand on the control box battery. You know, are we going to get halfway through an event and have a box go dead?
That's definitely something to consider. You can check your battery levels.
Yeah.
And make sure that they're nice and high. Clinton.
This is Chris. Can I ask a question about the maps?
Yeah, sure.
Or actually the courses? So what are you offering then? I assume brown, green, and red courses? Is that what kind of courses?
Yes. So you know, for the age groups we're going to be offering the appropriate courses to that. Yes. So we've got it open up to 90 year olds and over. So you know, we might be down at a green course as well because of the distance and time.
Okay.
That's all. As we understand it, that's all laid out, and look, Mike Minion will guide me when I screw this up. But yeah, that's all laid out in, you know, in the regulations, and you know, we are going to offer all those courses.
Okay.
As required.
Christina?
Hi. Yeah, with regards to the last question, I imagine the number of courses you do and what you call them will depend on how many people you have, right? So but that's something Mike will have full control over. I was wondering what you are doing as far as volunteers, just speaking from our experience with the World Games last year. Do you have someone who will manage any volunteers you get without orienteering experience, like the ones you get through the Sports Commission?
Yes, but we think the ones that come in that don't have, we expect that the club or friends of the club will handle all the orienteering. We're expecting that, you know, the snack table, the parking, those kind of things are what we're going to be bringing in Sports Commission volunteers for.
Sure, and then you'll have somebody who will be, because they will literally know nothing about orienteering, most of them, right? And so even if they're working a snack table or whatever, parking, I just recommend having somebody who's able to give them a little briefer of what they need to know, so that someone asks them a question, they can point them in the right direction, that kind of thing.
So I take it from this, your experience, and I will add a task in to make sure we've got a volunteer manager that looks after the volunteers at each of the sites.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, Christina was the event manager for the orienteering at the World Games, so she's definitely an expert.
No, that insight is much appreciated. Thank you, because it wasn't something I kind of thought about them as being the orienteering specific and then the others, but I realized the need to make sure so an athlete comes up, could ask anybody, because we're all going to be wearing the same color T-shirt, and we need to make sure that the non-specific orienteering specific volunteers have an idea of where to point someone at the right time. Thank you for that.
And I think, just to add, I think it's also, we had volunteers who had never heard of orienteering, got assigned to orienteering, and they were like, this seems really cool. And so if you can also make them feel like they're part of the team, doesn't mean that you need to spend weeks training them, but like if they have one chance where they get a little overview, then they feel like, I'm part of this cool thing. Yeah, and if you're able to get all your technical people from your local and regional orienteering clubs, that's great. Then you don't have to worry about real training.
John.
Maybe you don't know, but how far in advance do we know where the next Pan Am Masters Games, with or without orienteering, will be? How many of them into the future have already been awarded?
I will find that out, John. I have no idea.
I'm kind of curious when the next one in the US or Canada might be able to be. If you know someone in your local sports commission to suggest that they might think about bidding for the Pan Am Masters Games, and you could help them with the orienteering part of it. By the way, a participant-focused concern. I know about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but what other less-known tourist gems are there to do on the rain date for the sprint, say, assuming it doesn't rain during the intended day? Any recommendations?
So there is so much to see. I just spent the day at a world-class art museum, free to enter. We have a science center that is second to none. They're also playing some Pink Floyd music in the planetarium currently, so it's pretty cool, that kind of stuff. And they're just two venues that are walking distance from my house. So, if you want to drink some good beer, there's plenty of local brewers that will do that. There is also a Guardians game as part of the package, and I'm sure the Guardians are playing multiple times through. I ought to see whether, I don't know if the Guardians are playing on that rain day this Sunday.
Do you know whether the sports commission is putting together a page?
If you register as an athlete, no, I haven't lost my.
Phil, you're still on.
Oh, okay. My computer's telling me I've lost network connection, trying to reconnect. Okay, so including the package, there is a Guardians game, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There is a opening celebration and a closing celebration. So they're all included with a bunch of swag.
Sorry, the entry includes admission to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, I think we just lost him. But yes, that's what he was saying.
Yeah, cool.
And it includes the entry to the other games and stuff that he was mentioning. It looks like we lost Phil, and it's 9:25. Are there any other comments that people want to make to each other? Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. And what's to say, Mike? I don't see any. No, someone just said 2027 was in Columbia. I forget who posted that. Wait a minute, it's in there.
Yeah, I saw Chris posted that. I wonder if, where did you find that, Chris?
I think she left the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking at the World Masters Games or the Masters Games Association website and didn't see it listed as a future game, but maybe there's something that's not on their site. So, so it looks like 3 years from now would be the next one. And whether that was on a 4-year schedule or 3 is normal, I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it's been disrupted by the pandemic and it'll be getting back on schedule. An international athletic event that happens every 3 years sounds like an unheard of thing in my experience.
I'm back on, and it is the scheduled event is not, it's not the regular expectation you might have. So last year there was a European Games in Finland that had orienteering, and then there was a big gap between that and then the one that shows up when you go to the International Masters Games Association website is 2017 Auckland, which was the World Masters Games, and I think that was also the World Masters Orienteering Championship. Before that, there was Nice in Europe, and then the only other one that I see in the Pan America region was Portland World Masters Games in '98. There was meant to be one in Brazil, and there was meant to be one in Vancouver, and the Vancouver 2016 Pan American Games did not have orienteering.
Christina.
Yeah, out of curiosity, the rain dates, what kind of weather will it take for you to move to? It's not something we usually see in orienteering, right? It's a luxury to have a rain date. Work that out.
We've got people traveling, in from a long distance, and we wanted to make sure we were able to put on 3 events. And so we put in the Sunday rain date between the sprint and the long distance and the middle distance. And then when we're talking to the venues, the Cuyahoga Valley, for example, we've asked to have the permit extend out to the Wednesday just in case. I think everyone on this call has done a bunch of orienteering. We don't, it's going to have to be pretty bad weather for us to be using the rain dates.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened to us in BOK once. Was we normally wouldn't cancel an event for rain, but we had so much rain that there was flooding, and so that created problems. So it could be something that's a lot more than just drizzle that shuts things down. Walter. Walter, I think you might be muted.
Yep. Okay. Sorry. I think thunderstorms is something to look out for, because last year the Swiss O Week actually had to abort 2 events due to thunderstorms. So that could be one of them where you can't complete it. The advice there is, of course, make sure that the events are in the morning, because it's less likely that you get thunderstorms in the morning than in the afternoon. So that hopefully things are wrapped up before thunderstorms move in.
Yeah. I would think in general, the only reason to postpone would be things that would normally disrupt a major orienteering event, such as severe thunderstorms, tornado warning, severe flooding, massive civil unrest problems, those kind of things. I don't think, and Michael or Phil, correct me if we're wrong, but I don't think we're thinking of of postponing because it's raining a little bit.
No,
It would
no.
be major incident.
This would be a very major significant event for us to put it off. We also wanted to recognize that different from, say, Mike's Flying Pig, for example, great event, that's very much only orienteering. We are part of the Pan American Masters Games, and therefore, we want to provide opportunities for athletes that come in to participate in this whole experience, not just come in just for orienteering.
Yeah, you might want to change the name from rain date to something to indicate that a little bit of rain isn't going to cancel or postpone the event, so there wouldn't be confusion there.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's 9:30, so I'm glad that you guys all were here, and we will see you next month. I believe it is February 8th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
I did see there were a few messages. I tried to answer some of them. I see Mike Meany was pretty active. There was a question about, which countries, and essentially the Pan American Games event in Cleveland is open to anybody. Although we're targeting the Pan Americans, if people from Europe, anywhere in the world can come. There is no registration qualification needed. Please come and enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil and Mike Avery and others.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye-bye, guys.